Hello there, I'm Mrs. Groovy Groves and I'm here to help you with lesson 7. All right, the warm-up, it says which three go together representing percentages. Which three go together and why do they go together? Okay, there's lots of different things that we could do here. I see this as like A, B, and C. Those are all tape diagrams, whereas D is considered a double-sided number line. So we can say something like A, B, and C are all tape diagrams. And D is a double-sided number line. I'm sure there's other things that we could have noticed and mentioned. So again, it's not always whatever I said. There could be other things that you see as well, but we're going to move on. I'm going to come back to this activity. I actually want to start with the last activity due to the space that it has for us. And I want to show you something very important. Okay, let's do a little recap that whenever we talk about the OG, it is always going to be our X variable. And the new number will always be our Y variable. Is can always be translated to equals, and of always means to multiply. Okay, so protecting the green sea turtle. Green sea turtles live most of their lives in the ocean, but they come ashore to lay their eggs. Some beaches where turtles often come ashore have been made into protected sanctuaries so that the eggs will not be disturbed. Number 1. One sanctuary had 180 green sea turtles come ashore to lay eggs last year. This year, the number of turtles increased by 10%. How many turtles came ashore to lay eggs in the sanctuary this year? All right, it is absolutely crucial to go back and reread it and underline important information. This 180, they talked about it being last year. So this number is screaming the OG value, which is our X value. Increased by 10%. To increase means to add. How many turtles came ashore to lay eggs in the sanctuary this year? This year, that is screaming the new value, which is our Y variable. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about my percentages. The OG is always 100%. And since it increased by 10%, the new amount increased by 10%. If I have 100% plus 10%, that's going to take me to 110%. So my sentence that I'm going to construct is the new amount is 110% of the OG. And now I'm going to dissect this into an equation. And the new amount is always represented by Y. Is means equals 110% as a decimal. You can just take 110 divided by 100 and you would get 1.1. Of means to multiply and the OG means X. Okay, this is gold right there. Now it's time to plug and chug away. We already identified the 180 as our X value, so we need to drop it in here and plug and chug away. Y equals 1.1 times 180. And when you multiply that, you should get 198. So since the question said how many turtles, then you're going to say 198 turtles. And we're done there. Number 2, at another sanctuary, the number of nesting turtles decreased by 10% between last year and this year. This year, there were 234 nesting turtles. How many nesting turtles were at this sanctuary last year? Okay, so let's annotate some important information. Let's underline. Okay, decreased by 10% between last year and this year. Okay, it says this year there was 234. And the question says how many turtles were at the sanctuary last year. Last year is screaming the OG amount, which is our X value. And this 234 is screaming the new amount, which is our Y value. Okay, so our percentages, the OG always represents 100%. And the new amount, well, it said it's a decrease of 10%. So if you have 100% minus 10%, you would get 90%. And now our sentence would be the new amount is 90% of the OG. So again, we're going to break this out and we're going to have Y equals 90% as a decimal. Again, you put 90 divided by 100 to get the decimal. You would have 0.9 times X. Okay, and now it's time to plug and chug that 234. We already identified the 234 as our Y value. So that's going to get plugged in. This is the first time you're really seeing that we're not always plugging in for X. Sometimes we have to plug in for Y, and that's okay. But as you can see, since X is being multiplied by 0.9, to undo, to Uno reverse that, is to divide by 0.9 to both sides. So we'll divide by 0.9 to both sides. And as you can see, 0.9 divided by 0.9, that's 1. That's how you get 1x. And I'm going to flip the sides because I can and because I want to. So 234 divided by 0.9 is 260. And again, the question asked how many turtles. So you need to say 260 turtles. So the reason why I wanted to start with this is because one, it had so much space provided, but I also want you to understand that when you plug in you don't always plug in for X. As you can see, this one was a plug-in for X, and this one was a plug-in for Y. So it's not always going to be the same. It very much depends on the question. So be on alert as to which variable you're plugging in. Okay, let's do this one here. It says number 5 and 6. Again, I'm going to do this just because of the spacing. I'm going to use this space right here. Okay, and we cross off. Are you ready for more? Okay, so they do want us to use these tape diagrams, but I'm going to do, or this double-sided number line, we're not going to do this way. We're just going to stick to the same way I've been teaching you guys. So number 5, it says, after a 25% discount, the price of a t-shirt was $12. What was the price before the discount? Okay, I think we all know that discounts subtract from the OG price. This $12 is the price after. So, and then the question said, what was the price before the discount? Okay, before the discount, that's screaming OG, which is our X. And this 12 is the new amount. It would be our Y value. So let's take a look and let's do our percentages. Okay, I'm going to do number 5 right over here. So I have the OG percent, which is 100 every single time. And the new amount, remember that it said it was a 25% discount. So 100% minus 25% would be 75%. So my sentence would be the new amount is 75% of the OG. Okay, now we gotta break this down into an equation, kind of like Google Translate. So the new amount is Y, is means equals, 75% as a decimal is 0.75, And of the OG means to times X. All right, here's our beautiful golden equation. So now that $12, remember that we annotated it and we knew that it was the new value, which is our Y value. So I'm going to plug 12 in for Y, and I'm going to have 0.5x. So to undo, to get x all by its lonesome, I need to divide by 0.75 to the left side and to the right side. As you can see, this equals 1. It'll cancel. I'm going to flip the x because I can, and it's okay. So 12 divided by 0.75 is $16. The OG price had to have been $16. All right, number 6. Compared to last year, the population of Boomtown has increased 25%. The population is now 6,600. What was the population last year? All right, let's underline important stuff. Increase means to add. Since they said the population is now 6,600, that's our new amount, which is our Y value. And the question says, what was the population last year? So that's our OG value, which is our X value. Okay, I want to do this right here on number 6. Our OG is always 100%. And since it said increase by 25%, 100% plus 25% would end up giving me 125%. So my sentence would be the new amount is 125% of the OG. All right, translate this into an equation and you would get Y equals 1.25x. Okay. Now it's time to plug and chug that 6,600, and we already underlined it and understood that it's our Y value. So we're gonna input this right here, 6,600 is equal to 1.25x. And to get x all by itself, we're going to divide by 1.25 to both sides. This ends up canceling. I'm going to move x to my left side because I can. And 6,600 divided by 1.25 would be 5,280 people. Alrighty. All right. Again, as you can see, these two problems, when we inputted our amount, we had an input for Y. Okay? We subbed it in for Y. It's not always a sub in for X. In this particular example, it was. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm kind of working backwards, sorry. On number 3 and 4, I told my students to pause because it's kind of a tiny little bit different than the other ones, and I want to talk about it in a later lesson. So let's do 1 and 2, and then we're just going to call it done. So again, it tells you to do double-sided number lines, but we're just going to continue to stick to the method of creating the equation only because it's a really important, huge life skill for math. Number 1, last year scientists counted 12 foxes in a conservation area. This year they counted 50% more than that. How many foxes did they count this year? Okay, buzzword, last year, 12 foxes. So that would be the OG value, which is our X. 50% more than would be plus, and the fact that it says this year, that means we're looking for the new amount, which is our Y value. Okay, the OG percentage is always 100%, and the new amount, as you can see, it said 50% more than last year, so 100% plus 50% would be 150%. So my sentence, I'm just going to use the space provided. We're just going to squeeze it in here. The new amount is 150% of the OG. All right, break that down into an equation. And if you break it down into an equation, we would get y equals 150 as a decimal would be 1.5 x. Okay, so this is very important. And as you can see, it's time to plug and chug, and we know this 12 was our x value, so we're going to drop that in for x. So we're going to have y equals 1.5 times 12, and when you multiply that out, you would get y to equal 18, and that would be foxes, because it said how many foxes. So if it says how many foxes, you got to put foxes in your answer. And seriously, who talks about foxes? I don't know when I've seen a fox. But all right, number 2, and our last one too. After replacing some grass with rocks, a business decreased its water usage by 20%. Okay, I'm going to annotate. Decreased by 20%. If their old water usage was 15,000 gallons per week, how much do they use now? Okay. So to decrease, it means to subtract, and then it says old water usage was 15,000 gallons this week. So this is screaming the OG, which is our X value. And how much do they use now? That's screaming our new amount, which is our Y value. Okay, let's talk percentages. The OG percent is always 100%, and the new is, well, it said it was a decrease by 20, so we would subtract 20%. 100% minus 20% would be 80%. And our sentence would be the new amount is 80% of the OG. And now we do like Google Translate, get this into an equation. So we would say y equals 0.8x. I highlight this for you because it's so important. And as you can see, we already annotated this and understand that 15,000 would be plugged in for x. So we're going to do a plug and chug. We're going to do y equals 0.8 times 15,000. And when you run the math, you would get y to equal 12,000. And it would be gallons of water. I'm just going to say gallons. And that's it for the lesson for lesson 7. I hope I have helped you. This is Mrs. Groovy Grove signing out. Have a wonderful day.